All right, it's still TVC Breakfast. We're shifting gear at the moment to more national issues now. Well, despite the resolutions and strategies so far outlined to tackle insecurity and attacks, the attacks have not abated, with the latest carried out on police formation in Abia State. At least 2 officers were killed in the attack following the invasion of Akpumiri or Bakala police station in Umuahia South local government area. This comes barely 5 days after a non-gunmen attacked a station in Bende area where several valuables were also destroyed. It was gathered that the hoodlums stormed the police facility, raced down the station and burned some vehicles. Just 2 days ago, Nsokwa Divisional Police Station in Anyocha local government area of Delta State were attacked. 2 officers killed and properties destroyed. Security formations in the southeast have been targeted by gunmen of recent, with Abia State recording no fewer than 3 attacks on police formations in less than 3 weeks. Well, let's now bring in Professor Anthony Keller, a professor of strategy and development and Center Director for Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies, that will be. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, what we are reading at the moment, the things do not make for good reading at all.
No.
Especially when you realize that security is an important component to the existence of any society, isn't it?
That's correct. It's not a good reading because, as a matter of fact, before you can do anything, whether you want to trade, love, or pray, the first thing is to be secured. I guess even to dream, you need to be secured because if you're in a place that is not secured, you cannot sleep, talk less of dream or daydream. So it is a serious problem. And there's a peculiar kind of thing in what you read. That is the kind of insecurity we're reading from the southeast of the country. It's war against the state. There's no other way to put it. And the targets of the insurgents, the targets of those attacking, are symbols of the state. So it is clear that there is a part that is rebelling totally against the state. The sad thing is that the state appears to be losing the war. That is the major concern. Because you see, when you attack security forces, police stations, barracks, what you're saying is, I am at war with the state. And in a way, and I think this is a part of strategic move that those insurgents have done, by attacking clearly state objects, they are doing it to gain the sympathy of civilians. So in a way, what they're doing is they're saying that we're against the state, we're not against the people.
All right, so are you trying to say that to gain the sympathy of the mass of the people is the reason that security formations have now suddenly become a target of, for you know, the insurgents?
Well, I think that's part of the idea. You see, what they want to show is that we're not crazy, we're not lost, we're deliberately fighting the state, and when you fight the state, who do you attack? You attack the symbol of the state. And you know, the high symbol of the state is uniform. Uniformed men, be them police or soldiers. And they're actually treating themselves as, you know, as a military command, like a wing. In strategy, that's what you do when you look at a conflict. You can draw significant elements and profile of a conflict. And you can actually draw this one because in a way, you have 2 forces, one on each side. You have targets, you have mode of attack, you have political leaders, you have military wings, you have military leader. You can even identify the forces. So on one side you have the Nigerian police, you have the Nigerian army. On the other side you have the IPOB, you have the ECN. That said, I also think there are rogue elements now. You know, people who are not really controlled by one central force. But I think the key issue, which is the concern, is that the state is losing the war. Why is the state losing the war? It's not just today. It started from the past. The Nigerian state lost the war on intelligence gathering. It did not see this thing coming to explode in its face. It lost the war in terms of socio-economical and political development. What does that mean? It means that if the state is doing well and there's development going on and there's a shared ethos, young people have a future, there is prospect for everybody, it will become more difficult to alienate the people against the state. So what that means is that insurgents and rebels are able to recruit people who are not happy with the state already.
To join them. To
join them. So that's part two. So we've talked about the intelligence gathering. We've talked about the ability to lead socioeconomically and politically. Then the third side of it is the military side. One will assume that the Nigerian army, with its budget, with the vast numbers, and really our defense apparatus, our security infrastructure, one will assume that nobody can just attack them easily. But clearly that assumption is wrong.
All right. Now, as a professor of strategies,
yes.
Well, do you think that we are getting our strategies right in trying to curb what we're seeing now as insurgency and all of that?
No, I do not think so. I think we have a lot of good intention, but very little competence in the way we're doing things. When we have a situation like this, there are three things that need to be done immediately. Number one,
little competence, Prof.
Yes, little competence. Yes, but we're not getting right.
Why do you say so? Because you do remember that our security personnel,
yes,
they go outside on international missions,
yes,
and they come up tops.
Yes.
So, what does it say to you when you say little competence?
Well, so do our doctors and so do our sportsmen. They go outside and they come on top and they come home and they don't get it right. It tells me there's something wrong with Nigeria. Yeah, there's something wrong with the Nigerian system. That's what it tells you. I think what we need to do, number one, is when it's a military force, the state has to appear with overwhelming force. We need to, for every one man attacking us, we need to have 10 or 15 right away. Overwhelming personal force, overwhelming machinery. But then, to do that...
But do we have that capacity?
Well, we need to find out. If we don't, then we need to get more immediately. This is an emergency. You don't explain why you're losing war because you'll be dead. You simply win. The only way to have a after-war narrative is to stay alive. It's either you win or you totally surrender. What we're seeing is a failed state. Look, we need to get overwhelming human force, overwhelming capacity. But unfortunately, the security forces also have to be disciplined and civilized. They have to be seen not to be murderers, but indeed people who are there to serve security. Then we need to immediately give a sense of belonging and a sense of justice and fairness to the people in the zone or in any area where there is conflict. And then we can't understate it, work on development, let the state govern. People should see the state doing roads, keeping life safe, ensuring people can trade and thrive and manufacture and do their things and go to school. We need to create a system where it is beneficial to be good.
Because in the first place, if these things are in place, it will be very difficult to have young people who rebel against the system.
Absolutely, because at the moment, there are too many young people who have nothing at stake. There are actually too many people who are not even young who do not feel that they can thrive within the system. So therefore, they're disgruntled. They're not happy with the system. And what they tend to do is to go for what is an alternative. So anybody who offers them something that is not pro this system becomes attractive to them. And therein lies the problem.
Now, you talked about budget earlier. What we have as a budget for our security forces, for instance, the military and all of that, we've had instances or the cases of corruption still exists within, with the way that things have been handled in terms of military budget and all of that. And not too long ago, we saw videos of military officers shared by the former aviation minister, Fani Kayode, where they were dumped inside an empty building, moved from a more comfortable area to a very uncomfortable environment. No no beddings, nothing at all. And then they were complaining, saying that, look, they weren't properly taken care of. So in situations like that, it becomes pretty difficult to have very motivated force, isn't it?
Yes. Well, this is part of a broken system. This is what you call, what you're outlining, coupled with what we were saying earlier on, those are we're drawing the profile of a failed state. When we say Nigeria is a failed state, it's going to be a failed state. People say I reject it, or imagine that, oh, look at us, we can still go to work. It's not a state failed. That's not the way it works. Unfortunately, unfortunately, a failed state does not happen overnight. It is cracks like this, inability to take care of the defense apparatus, inability of the defense apparatus to function, schools that are not producing literate students, hospitals that cannot take care of people. That is how a state cracks. So when you talk about, you have a system, every year there's a budget. That budget is written on paper, line by line, what should be done for what. Every unit has a budget, it is submitted. Then those who are supposed to consume the budget, the beneficiaries of it, do not get the budget. I mean, it's a sad thing, but surely it's not a mystery. If we, and you were shocked when I used the word competence, let me go back to it. If we had a competent system, if we had a competent government, if we had competent officers, that is something you can easily audit. It's not rocket science, and it's not a mystery of the gods that are not making things work. If you had somebody who really wanted to know what happened to the money, you can trace it.
Accountability.
It's very, and you just need the will, of course. Not just the will, you need the competence as well. Because, and herein lies the trouble, if we have a system where the dullest are ruling the brightest, there's going to be a problem. One, because those brightest under the dullest, they'll be very angry, and they won't help the dullest. And where they're not angry, they become fraudulent. And they will do things that the dullest will not understand, and just make the system collapse, and they will serve themselves. So that is why we have a situation where Nigeria, and indeed the armed forces, and a lot of our organizations, especially public ones, they turn into what I've termed elsewhere as a church, where the church is poor, but the priests are rich. So you have a system where the armed forces or the police or the customs anywhere, the body itself is poor, but individuals are rich because they do not owe allegiance to that body that is putting them together. They do not believe in it, they do not trust its leaders, they're not devoted to it, so they just take care of self.
Right, now let's look at the resolution of the Southern governors.
Yes.
Of course, the major talking point is a banning of open grazing within southern region. Do you think that strategy would solve the problem?
Well, I think it's a start. Let's say three things about that. Number one is that it is a start. If there is a link between a particular trade or a particular activity, and you want to stop that for security reasons. But beyond that, even for economic reasons and for temporal factors, open grazing is archaic. It's analog, it's a yesterday affair. The countries and places that thrive on cattle rearing today do not do open grazing. So it's a good thing the southern governors have, I say, finally come out to say this clearly. Mind you, I hope people listen to them now. Because let me shock you, what the southern governors are saying today is not actually new. Many have said it before. Guess what? Including northern governors.
Right.
I think it was 2016 when the governor of Sokoto already said this thing, that it is best for people to rear their cattle where they live. And
Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje also echoed that thought as well.
Yeah, he echoed it
as
well.
Yes.
So our hope now is that people actually listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Professor Anthony Kela, we thank you very much indeed for coming to share your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
On today's show.